Hello and welcome to GameGuru Max live broadcast number 12. Again, I apologise for the 5 minutes of delay. You probably heard in the background a lot of subtle clicking. That was Lee clicking the refresh button on his YouTube channel and not seeing it go live. Even though my phone said it was going live and my YouTube broadcast studio says it was going live, apparently my homepage on YouTube doesn't say it's live. So I think what I'm going to do from now on is just go straight to the internal studio tool and read the chats there instead of waiting it to pop up on YouTube 5-10 minutes later. So yeah, maybe you enjoyed the repeating music, maybe you enjoyed the clicks, but I don't think so. What you want to learn about is the latest developments of GameGuru Max as we thrust out of alpha and into beta. You're probably expecting a build sometime this week. We will not disappoint you. So we're just currently working on all that, on many thrusters. And it probably has been some time since you saw any news on terrain. Well, I've got a little bit of terrain to show you in the form of some nice videos. And then I'll boot up GameGuru Max's latest build to show you a few things that's going on inside there. As always, if you've got any questions, please do post them in the live chat. Just put a question mark in the sentence, or use the word question in square brackets, simply so I can scan through very quickly, see the genuine questions, and then answer them as quickly as I can verbally at the end of this broadcast. And any ones I don't get at, I'm going to get at during the GameGuru forum thread, which will accompany this live broadcast recording, which stays on our YouTube channel, where I can reread the questions and answers and then spell correct and make them all pretty and nice and wonderful, and a good source of reference where you want to find out any particular information. In fact, if you go to the GameGuru forum channel and you just search for live broadcast answers, you'll actually see there is now 11 threads with plenty of answers if you were curious or you've come in late to the party and you want to find out what's going on about GameGuru Max. Plenty of answers to be found there. So without further ado, I'm going to jump straight into showing you these videos, which was kindly prepared for me by Mike. I'm going to go through them in order. These were the order in which I received them. And then eventually I'm going to be able to create my own videos, but for now I'm getting it drip fed to me. So here's the first one. This is demonstrating LOD. Now anyone who isn't a deep down dirty graphics programmer probably think, what the smeg is going on? Why can't I just click 5 buttons and make a game? Well, this is what happens under the hood. This is the internal nasty stuff that hopefully you would never have to worry about in your entire life, and you can focus on the creative aspects. But effectively what LOD, or level of detail, is the fact that we don't want to be rendering millions of polygons for your game. So the further away the terrain is, we don't need to use many polygons, and this technique ensures that that is done in such a way that you don't really notice the difference as we start dropping the polygon resolution off into the distance. The next video I received was one which demonstrated a bit of sculpting. Obviously you've seen little bits and pieces like this before, but what you haven't seen is it integrated right into the product. So this is actually using the Wicked engine, it's using the UI, it's actually built in its own little place within the editor. I've been very busy in lots of other areas, so I've been happy to leave this as a sort of a separate development thread, but we're very almost tantalizingly close to grabbing a very functional terrain editor and painter, dropping it into the main product for the build that you will get your hands on. So as I say, all this is still in progress. So you see those gaps, that's absolutely normal. We are focusing on the right things in the right order, and we're not too worried about gaps, simply because we know what they are and there's other things that need doing that's more important. Then we've got painting, so built on top of the ability to create the terrain and then sculpt it and then manage level of detail, you've now got the ability to select paint and then change the texture of that terrain. And of course, you may have remembered from previous prototypes, this is virtual texturing. So as you're actually painting an arbitrary image onto it, it actually stores it all in this massive canvas called a virtual texture, and then that can be recreated anywhere in the terrain, no matter where you are. And in the background, lots of clever things happen, like reducing those images down to bitmap levels, so it can actually load the lower resolutions of those images off in the distance. Again, all feeding back to this idea of performance. The idea that when you have created your terrain and painted it and you're standing in that terrain, you want your game to run fast. You don't want it to be slowly calculating all the things. So that's really what we're doing now in the background. We're making sure that those are in place, and then they're fast enough that we can actually produce it at VR real-time speeds, upwards of 72 FPS. So yeah, as you can see, there's a little gap again. As I say, we're not worried, but sometimes the gap helps us figure out the log differentials, just as we're working on it. But we're getting very close now to finishing up the, I'm still calling it sort of prototype work, in the sense that it is separate from the product, but it's effectively all using the same functionality of the main engine. And then the last one, even though it's sort of relatively flat terrain, the idea that you can actually go into test game and run around on the terrain. So very soon we'll be able to say goodbye to flat terrain, and we'll be able to introduce the proper terrain system. So I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, that's terrain, and it has been going on in the background. I've just not been showing that because I've been too interested in showing all the stuff that I've been getting on with. And finally, let me just run the latest version. I was literally in the debug build of this about 15 minutes ago, and then I realised I really need to switch it back to release mode. So if it does do strange things, don't worry, it was completely deliberate. No, it wasn't. So this is release mode, and I've been checking the forums as well, and any feedback comes back from there. One of the things, quite rightly, we was accidentally installing the software into the program files x64 folder, which is wrong because that's for 32-bit applications. So we've updated the next installer, so it will install to the program files 64-bit area where it belongs. So that's been sorted. Let me show you a level I was testing last night, and of course after testing and you do a build, then it takes a while to build the build and then do the installer and then upload that build so people can test it the next day. Right, I imagine that's very low. Let me see if I can sort that out. Hopefully I have reduced the volume on this broadcast as well. But this is what I was doing whilst I was waiting for the build to upload to the server, just fleshing out a bit more of the Cellar Demo. Eventually this will be our showcase. As I say, for the longest time it was just a corridor in one room. I do want to make it somewhere you can explore, so different rooms with different purposes, maybe some functionality about it. Some great news is we've solved the physics sticking, so now as you can see, you no longer stick yourself on the radiator or on the chair. So we've solved that, so we, Preben solved that. I'm really glad. It was sort of one of those things where you could back at it for hours, but then if you go to sleep, you wake up the next day, the solution just drops in your lap, seemingly from the heavens. So yeah, physics is working. You see we've got a little coal bunker here. We'll populate that at some point, maybe hide a zombie in there. And of course, so the question is, which you would have called the original Cellar Demo room, all over the floor. As you can see, we've got cans, keys, bread, boiler. It literally represents 15 minutes worth of just plopping some things down. What I'd really like to do is sort of have an idea of for each of these rooms and corridors. The idea is you just feel like you're in some basement or some large fancy house. So this will be included in the next build. So I would say it will be the first proper level I actually intended to be loaded by someone and then play. But the physics thing sorted out, you can actually run around now without instantaneously getting caught. So yeah, that's where we are as of right now. We have now got a list of what I would call critical issues that we're dealing with before we do the next build. That will of course include the integration I should say, of the terrain. And I'm just going to come out of test game because it was possible that music was completely overwriting my voice, in which case you've just been listening to Lee squeezing out some vocals right in the distance with music blazing away in the foreground. This editor is dark because, as you might know now, the GameGuru Max editor completely represents the lighting. It doesn't do a fudged, slower, like a faster version of rendering in the editor. What you see in the editor is now what you see in the game, and I think there's some benefits though. Of course, it does mean you're going to need a decent graphics card in order to be able to edit and then play your games. But I just want to put it in a nice little visual before I switch over to the questions, which is now in a slightly different place thanks to YouTube not cooperating. But what I'm going to do is have one quick glance and a refresh. One refresh, I'll give it one chance. One refresh. Haha. Okay, I've got it. So if I click that, be able to edit and then play and then press games. That. I just want to put it in a nice little that. Still don't have it. Okay, I'm going to go with plan A, which of course is just to read your questions straight out the internal tool. So as I said, I'm happy to answer some questions, but I will do them in order. I'm looking for that magic question mark. So hopefully everybody heard me speak for the last 20, what is it? 15 minutes. We're doing okay. I've actually been on time for once and I didn't even try. So scrolling through, here's a question, 2 question marks from Loretta. Just curious, will GG Max work with the Tgc Store too? Great question. Lots of things we add and then I instantly forget that we've added them. But it is a major part of the functionality, and now you've actually got download store items. So as you can see, you've got ability to log on into, I've got some stuff. Oh, it wants me to authenticate on the second page. Is it going to ask for second? No. It's being kind for once. So once you've logged in using your account, then this can update with how many you've got. You can update the files. Because we're using the writables area, which means you're not going to write any creation stuff into the right area, into the program files, it will write to the right area. So now what I can do is click here. And these are all things that I bought from the store or downloaded when they were free. So you see, it very quickly grabs all of my store content, drops it into my entity library. As always with these live broadcasts, this is literally a build I've just finished. So I won't be at all surprised if things go horribly wrong. But I am going to push the boat out. Now we've finished downloading. If we go to entities and we look through, do we see all the things that I bought? Probably in here somewhere under purchases. I think it might be an idea to pop the purchases ones right at the top. I'll tell you why it isn't here. Now, one of the things that we did do, it just reminds me actually, we've pre-created some empty folders in the writables area, so there's no longer a need to leave the software and come back if you created a structure, created a character, or imported an entity. The one thing that did slip my mind is we also need to create an empty folder for the store content, so that when you go to the store for the very first install, the very first time, and then jump to Entity Library, had we created that empty folder, it would appear here as purchases, so they can scroll through all your purchases. I would have to leave the software and come back. So that's something I should really try and remember and add to the bug list after this broadcast. But that's a great question, and there's the answer. We've actually added it for you. Just get rid of the authentication screen, go to the next question, which look like few and far between, so we might actually squeeze this entire broadcast into 25 minutes. Question: will VR functionality have limitations upon release? Currently, I did not see a way to change weapons reloading Windows Mixed Reality. Is it because we need to code Lua scripting for this? Absolutely not. No, there should be no requirement to go into scripting just to be able to change the weapon in VR. What you were playing was literally the first time we activated the VR button and you got to play around in it. It's very much early and work in progress. Don't worry about that first experience. I will be trying to find some buttons across different controllers for switching weapons and reloading. All the things you're going to need to do to play the game without leaving VR, which kind of defeats the object of immersion. So don't worry too much about that. And we're going to support Windows Mixed Reality and Oculus Rift if everything goes great. And we'll be tentatively looking at Steam Beta for HTC Vive because we're using OpenXR, which gives us full support across all of those VR headsets. In terms of will it have limitations upon release, that's a subjective term. A limitation to you may not be a limitation to me, which might be a different definition for a third person. So it's a difficult one to answer. But I'm going to say yes, there will be some limitations according to some people's definition in the first version of GameGuru Max's VR offering. I think that's a very honest thing to say. And it's a nice catch-all too. Another question, this is from Synchro. Still cannot get VR on my Quest, even though I am familiar with Link. I am missing something, or is it just not working at the moment? I've pretty much, for the most part, had my Windows Mixed Reality plugged in. I do switch to the Quest from time to time, and that worked in previous internal tests. Not tested it with the latest build though, so maybe we did something that kind of went a bit fudgy. And I am doing a lot of work this evening on VR. There's about 7 or 8 tasks that I think are super critical for this next build that I'll be working on VR. So I will add to that list just to double check that the Oculus Link works, so your Quest headset will work. But I personally quite like the Quest. It's nice, it's lightweight, it's really good. Even like the controllers, even though I could do with a few more buttons. But I'll add that to my list, or at least to my thinking, or at least I'll try, because my brain just might get reset after this broadcast. But thanks for bringing it up. It is important that if you have a particular VR headset that you want some minimum support for it, at least at this these alpha beta build stages. Scrolling to the next possible question mark. Not a lot of questions actually, just a lot of chat, which is fine. It's fine. I can get off sooner. Some of the previous broadcasts, I've had literally 20 questions and just rattling through them. Wonder if we will have in-game options in the beta for music volume. Yeah, that's in as well. If you create a standalone, I was playing a standalone, I think it was this level, and I made it as a standalone, just running around, and the music was like really loud. But then when I went to the in-game menu and changed the volumes, it just worked straight out the box. So that works, although the default's actually quite loud. But I will be playing around and massaging those features before we get to actual release, so it's all quite sensible and uniform and expected, you know, standard stuff across the board. So Lee has encrypted his messages with music. I won't put it past him. Looking for another question. Here's one. Is there no AO between the floors and the walls which don't look connected? No, there isn't actually. No, there's no light mapping. There's no pre-baked ambient occlusion textures. This is all real textures with real normals and real surface attributes. No pre-baking. If you want like a dark corner, just move your lights into the appropriate place, set the color and range of those lights so you can create a real-time effect of darkened corners. There are other effects like SSAO, which is screen space ambient occlusion, which could give you that. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. I've just not switched it on. But I'm not promising SSAO because it's not on my UI in front of my screen here, and I'm not exactly sure if Wicked Engine actually does SSAO. I'd be very surprised if it doesn't. But there isn't any pre-baked stuff going on. We're going for real time for this one. Here's a question. Is the release date on the 30th still actual? Yes, we still have a 30th of September as our release date for this product. I know it's a huge hill to climb with all the stuff that a product needs. But we're quietly confident we'll have all the functionality in there, and you'll be able to play all the different things and do the editing and save games and save your multiplayer and play your multiplayer and all that kind of thing. But you know, at the end of the day, when all's said and done, it is development and things can have a curveball on you, and then we just got to react. But we're okay right now. We're really happy with the VR, we're happy with the editing, and we're happy with the way the file system is organised. So full steam ahead for us, and we'll certainly let you know as we get closer to release if there's anything that's going to fall on over the edge, but not by a long. Even if we release with some stuff missing, those are the priority developments we'll be working on. We're certainly not adding new features before we've actually delivered everything that was on that pre-order list. Got something from Witherstorm with just 3 question marks. I presume he wanted his question marks in his previous post, which was, will there be health and energy AI implemented in enemy AI implemented in the beta? There is. I wasn't going to show you this, but as the question provokes it, I'm going to load this one in, because it actually was what I was working on before this broadcast. As you see, we've got our soldier character. Now he's driven by something called AI soldier.lua. And I'm hiding behind this wall because when I pop out of it, he will actually turn and shoot. In fact, I can show you that part. It might get a bit loud. So let's get closer. Running away. What I was working on so that's what I'm working on. But for the most part, the combat system is actually in place. It's working. It's just a couple of these connections that I need to finish. And then the soldier, as he was in Classic, will be able to run around in a max level, doing the same kind of damage he was doing before. Will there be... Oh no, sorry. Will VR functionality have limitations upon release? Currently, I did not see a way to change weapons. Yeah, I think we've either got that repeated or I've gone back in time. Scrolling down, see if we can not get another same question. Can we load in our own HDRI skies? Yeah, sure. I mean, in the I think it's still in the end. Yeah, it's still here. See custom skies. We've got clear, golden, night. You could create a new sky folder and then drop in a cube map. It will find that cube map because it's a particular name. And if that cube map is actually an HDRI formatted cube map, I imagine it might be able to load in. But for now, I'd say no plans to support HDRI sky maps, but we've never tried it, so it may just work out the box. But I don't see why not if HDRI is simply just a cube map of a higher resolution. No question mark for that one, so I'll skip. Is the release still okay? So that's been repeated again. I mean, that's 2 repeated questions, so I may have just accidentally scrolled the chat list up to the top again. Is the driving system in-game like cars? Nope, no plans to add vehicles, driving systems, etc. You can certainly script it in Lua, but it won't be out of the box built into the software. Question, will dynamic Lua checkboxes be possible for values of 0 and 1? Yeah, we've got a lot of different gadgets, as you can see. We've got the tick, see vegetation, tick on and off, we have that. So yeah, we could use, it wouldn't be 0 and 1, it would be a tick, you know, yes or no, a tick probably. But yeah, if you think there's a particular reason why 0 and 1 toggled is needed over say a tick, then obviously we can add that. But I think what you mean is, can you actually go into your Lua script and add those gadgets as additional types, in which case not planned for the release because we've got plenty on our plate, but a great idea, and I absolutely see no reason why we can't add it because it should be a relatively quick fix once we have that leisure time to add those leisurely quick fixes. Scrolling, getting almost to the end of the chat, which is really good. I might get all the questions on, but people keep asking questions, so I probably never will. That question mark was in related to about the chat. Here's a question in square brackets from John Billington. Does the tessellation feature work currently in the visual settings? I don't see any difference when I click it. Nor do I. I mean, we got tessellation mode on and off because it was supported by the Wicked engine. As to what clever magic it's actually doing in the background is anybody's guess. But certainly I'll actually be taking a closer look at it. And if it is not connected to anything, or in order to support, in quotes, tessellation takes an additional week, I'll just remove that tick box. But because it's in Wicked, and it's probably a really clever idea, it will find its way back to the Max UI at some point. Here's another question. Will we have wind zones to make trees move? No, no plans for wind zones in GameGuru Max. I'm sure there will be techniques we can do in terms of controlling the animation of the scripts, which we can do now, but some sort of dynamic influence over entity objects, whether they animate or no, not sure. The closest you'll probably get is particles, so maybe you can fix a particle effect to a tree and then some sort of influencer on those particles, so say the leaves move in a particular direction. But bending branches and small trunks, you might need to code that with lots of animation in the tree and then use Lua scripting in order to decide which direction that moves. Maybe way down the line we'll have a full tree simulation system, in which case wind would actually play a larger role, but not planned for this release. Does the sun still shine through the joints in EBE? I think so, yeah, but it's not the sun shining through, it's the fact that the shadows start too late. So the shadows should really stop that sunlight from ever being rendered, but because the shadows are actually not starting at the correct point, it's a little bit give and take. But we are going to add some settings to that so you can control when the shadows start, just as we added control over the resolution of those shadows. Oh, hey, I've just looked at the clock. It's 28, so I really don't want to go over the half-hour mark, so I'll use one more question and then I will put all the rest in the GameGuru thread. And the one who gets the honour of being the last question, used a question mark, thank you very much, Mike Felker, is, will TTP be available at any time in Max? TTP, third troll perspective? There are no plans to add third troll perspective into GameGuru Max, so looks like the news I have ended on a novelty high note. Please describe to me in what context TTP is referring to. I apologise in advance if I should be cleverer than that. I should already know what TTP is, but if you can let me know either in this chat, so I'm going to cut and paste it very soon, or in the forum when I reply the proper answers, then I'll give you a more thorough explanation as to whether we do intend to do TTP or not. Trolls or no trolls. So that's this broadcast. I apologise for tripping you up. I know you was expecting a sneak peek with slightly higher production values, but we are so knee deep in just fixing many things, trying to get some really good builds together, that we thought, let Lee ramble for 15 minutes and then get him straight back onto keyboard to do more coding. And I do think that's the right decision, given the fact we're now mid-September and we've got a lot to do before we actually deliver the final goods on the 30th of September at the end of this month. So thanks for listening, thanks for showing up. I didn't expect so many people, considering I sprung this on you. So it's really great that you all attended to ask some questions, and please do check out the GameGuru forum later for all the answers to the questions that was posed in this broadcast. So until next time, I'll say thank you and goodbye.
What?